Hello, DK here from Mr. V Amps with the RTL Model 1. Okay, RTL Model 1 Series Filament Amp. Uses some tubes that you're probably not seeing in today's guitar amplifiers. 12AX7, we see a lot of those, but 50L6 and 35Z5. 35Z5 is a rectifier, so that would kind of be like your 5-white 3 in a little amp, I guess. And 50L6 would be sort of like your 6V6. But these are special because they were made specifically for series filament amps. The idea behind series filament amps goes back to radios and trying to make the radio that every man could afford. So we'll just refer to it as an everyman type radio. And the power transformer and the output transformers add a lot of cost to a guitar amp. If you've ever built one or have tried to or had to replace a transformer on one, you know it costs a lot of money. So these series filament designs were engineered to basically reduce cost and still deliver performance. So these tubes run at a significantly lower voltage than many. Your plate voltages we're seeing on here are maybe only 150 volts on the plate, as opposed to, a 6V6 runs somewhere between 250 and 350 typically in a lot of amps. And your 12AX7s are actually running at about 117, 120-ish. And that is DC, it is rectified, that is a rectifier tube. So what makes series filament work? We have 120 volts out of the wall, and we need to find a way to eat up those volts. So we can skip the power transformer. In a normal amplifier, we have a power transformer that reduces the voltage to things like 6.3 volts. For all of our tubes that take 6 volt filaments, 6L6, 6V6, 6K6 if you have a reverb unit. I do. And then we think of 12 volt, which would be like 12AX7. That tube will run on 6 volts too, though. And then we have the 5 volt for things like 5Y3 and 5AR4 and 5U4, which are rectifier tubes. So we need things like 5 volts and 6 volts and 12 volts to run filaments. Well, it would take a lot of tubes to add up to 120 volts if we started summing all of those together. So we have a couple of volt hog tubes here. We have a 35Z5 that eats up almost 35 volts of power right there, voltage, 35 and 50L6. So there's 50 and 35 and a 12AX7 wired as 12 volt to drop another 12, and the original radios had 2 more 12 volt filament tubes, and in the old radio it would be 35, 50, 12, 12, 12, and that would add up to 121, which would effectively consume all of the wall voltage if you wired them in series, and you had a functional amplifier without the transformer to do the 6 volts, etc. The tubes like the 50L6 here were also designed to work at a lower plate voltage. It runs just fine and dandy at 100 to 150 plate volts. It's basically between 100 and 200 volts on the plate, and it's a happy tube. This circuit puts out about 3 watts of power, but my word, are they loud and really good sounding 3 watts. The speaker slated for this project is the 8-inch Celestion I have back here, but since I don't have the cabinet done for it yet, a speaker playing into open air just doesn't sound very good, so I have it plugged into a shop speaker down on the floor. And the other beauty about this is the power transformer, or not the power, that's the output transformer, excuse me. The 50L6's output transformer, because this tube outputs a lot of current already, it doesn't require a big fancy transformer. They're very inexpensive. These are only about $18 to $20 to get them to your door. And it's the same transformer you would find in an All-American 5 radio. Has a primary impedance of only 2,000 ohms. 2,000 to 2,500 ohms is what these things want, and it's a much less expensive transformer. So your student of the day in the 1950s would have gotten a amplifier like this if their family didn't have the dollars to shell out for something more pricey, but at the same time they had a unique and a beautiful sound. The reason we don't see these things around like crazy anymore is when we had two-prong cords, these were a shock hazard if plugged in backwards. If you look at any of the old table radios these were based on, they were almost always encased entirely in Bakelite plastic, so you could not touch the metal chassis. And that way, if they were plugged in with the polarity reversed, nobody would get hurt. Now that we have grounded cords, you couldn't plug it in backwards if you wanted to, and it's also got an additional ground for safety, so I can touch it all I want and I'm not worried about it. I've had amplifiers that did have power transformers in them, and when the filter caps went bad, they gave a horrible shock. But after a three-prong cord, even with bad filter caps, the amp sounded terrible, but still didn't shock me anymore. So, three-prong cords are a wonderful thing. This is a 1953 schematic. There are a few different revisions of this variant, and you'll find quite a few that use 35Z5 and 50L6. There are some that use a different 12-volt octal tube. And we're also going to be doing an RTL series amp from the 60s. But we turn it up a little bit, and she gets nice and crunchy and garage rock here. Probably going to scare the heck out of my speaker, or scare the heck out of my camera, I should say. Just at 25-30% volume, this thing is plenty loud, and that's just with a single 10-inch speaker for the shop. So I can't really demonstrate how wonderful my guitar skills are, but when the amp is complete, we'll have Dominic make some clips for the website. And thanks for checking it out. But this is going to eventually be a series on Mr. V's amps, mrvamps.com, and you can check it out. And if you want me to build you one, I can build you one. There's a couple revisions we're going to do from this one. This is just the prototype chassis, and the cabinet is in the works right now. It's over at the wood shop in pieces still. But unlike the original, we didn't do the All-American 5 thing of putting the power switch on the volume knob. I didn't do that. I actually added a separate power switch, and I added a on lamp. Do you believe the original amplifier skipped the on lamp? Because, well, that costs money that we don't want to spend. We want to make the most affordable amp for the student player. And quite frankly, although it was built to be very inexpensive, it sure sounds a heck of a lot better than a lot of those solid state amps on the market today. If you're interested in this kind of thing, think it's cool, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. I'll show you what I'm up to. I apologize for those who love to watch people build amps. I would love to have taken you into the shop and let you watch me wire it up, but for safety's sake, I just need to work in a no distraction environment so I don't injure myself when working with the drills and the tools. So thank you for understanding, but I'm glad to flip it over and show you more detail and things. There will be a sequel video to this. Thanks. Have a great day.